these submissions won't be read. Government will fashion the terms of reference to suit the outcomes it seeks, and part of that will be to protect the civilian and defence hierarchy. What do you think?
Well, I'm not as pessimistic as you are, Alan, on this one, and I want to pay tribute to the work Heston and Kay have done. They've been toiling in this field for a very long time. But look, I think due to the advocacy of them and also the work that the Daily Telegraph has done and that you have done, and I know Paul Murray's been active in this space now for some time, and those voices have been heard in the coalition base, and I know that coalition MPs returning to their constituencies know that they created an absolute mess under the previous Defence Minister and the CDF in the implementation both of the release of the Brereton report and the stripping of honours and awards from entire formations and the disbanding of 2 Squadron SAS Regiment. It started a mutiny in the heartland of the Conservative parties, and that has not been lost on them. So I think there is an opportunity that these terms of reference have the undivided attention of the Defence Minister, the Minister for Veterans Affairs and the AG. So I'm not as pessimistic as you are on that point. And I'd make this point, Alan, that I had some feedback from my colleague Glenn Colomites, who was with some of the bereaved parents and spouses of soldiers. And I think it's almost a misnomer to call this a veteran suicide issue. It's a defence suicide issue. This is happening on the watch of the Australian Defence Force, and DVA are picking up broken people who are being discharged with red flags on their psych reports. And frankly, I feel sorry for Darren Chester inheriting the problems that a dysfunctional organisation are inflicting on DVA, which is not to exonerate them, but every indication I've got from my colleague Glenn Colomites is that the meeting with Minister Dutton was far-ranging and he showed a genuine interest. Everything's on the table. I've got some confidence in Darren Chester as well that they're willing to have a look at the entire continuum from the moment people enlist.
That being the case, let me ask you this then. You talked about not exonerating people. If the Commission is to look at all aspects contributing to mental health or suicide, then those contributing most are surely the civilian and military people who sit behind desks and for years have ignored the plight of these veterans.
100%, and I am advised, I can't promise anything, but I was told by people who were privy to some of the consultations that Minister Dutton regarded his entire department as being accountable, and I think that includes the IGADF, frankly. I don't think they're going to be exempt from investigation as to the way it has operated.
They initiated the Brereton report, which is vilified, condemned, sacked outstanding defence men with many years of service, sacked without an opportunity to defend themselves. We've got to make sure, haven't we, that the terms of reference cover that 100%. Kind of behaviour.
Absolutely. And Alan, I'd make this plea if Minister Dutton's watching tonight to advise his head of Defence Legal Services to open the door to people with legitimate claims of maladministration in the Defence Force and stop farming it out to these highly paid panel law firms who make litigation a process through which they line their pockets and put people through a further punishment by process. These matters lend themselves to mediation and frank discussion, and I've got faith. Adrian D'Amico, the head Defence Legal, is a good guy. I've had dealings with him over sensitive matters in the past. These matters can be dealt with because it's not just Brereton. It's not what has been done to the SAS regiment as odious and debilitating and unjustified as that has been. It is also the routine failures of administration, the persecution of people without any recourse to process, the absolutely appalling implementation of administrative discharges or manufactured health discharges of members, and their separation from the service places their lives in jeopardy because they're devastated, they lose their sense of meaning, and there is a window of about 18 months where they're at very high risk of self-harm.
Great stuff, Catherine. You're always magnificent. Hang in there. We'll talk next week. We don't give up. We're both Queenslanders. There she is, the great Catherine McGregor.